Thank you. Hello, Baton Rouge, or should I say Baton Rouge. I'm really excited to be here. As you just heard, I lived in New Orleans for 3 years. I actually took the Louisiana bar, and I passed it. In fact, in the 3 years I was in New Orleans, that's the only bar that I passed. I like that joke. It took me all day to come up with that joke. I'm going to speak for a little while, and then my lovely wife is going to speak about caregivers. But I want to start out by getting very serious with you. And by the way, Coach Craig Thorpe, when Louisville plays LSU in the title game this year, we'll have a friendly bet going on. You are not Parkinson's. You are a person that you've always been. You are not Parkinson's. Parkinson's, you are a person with Parkinson's. You are not Parkinson's with a person. And I think that's real important to understand. I was in Greece recently, and I met a couple in a small shop. And the gentleman was walking with, his hand was deformed and he had a limp. And we were talking, and he said to me he had a stroke, and he said that he didn't feel like a man anymore. And I gripped his hands, and I looked him straight in the eye, and I said, "You're still a man. You're as much of a man as you've ever been. You may be even more of a man." And he started crying, and I started crying, and my wife started crying, and everyone was crying. But it's something that you need to understand, that you are not Parkinson's. And where I came up with this insight was I was doing a speech with some people, a women's retreat in southern Indiana. And I decided to not do the speech but have a workshop format. And I asked the first woman, "Tell me about yourself." And she said, "Well, I have Parkinson's for 6 years and I can't do this and I can't do that." And the second one, I asked her, what's your story? And she said, "I've had Parkinson's for 3 years." And the next person said, "I've had it for 7 years." And I said, "Time out. Stop. You are not Parkinson's. I asked about you. Tell me about you." And it was like a cloud lifted and the sunshine shined in. And the first woman brightened up and said, "I build buildings. I was an architect. You can see some of my buildings if you go downtown Indianapolis." And the second one said, I garden. I'm very proud of my garden. I have prize-winning tomatoes." That's what you need to think about. What you can do, what you still can do, what you are, and what you remain to be. You have Parkinson's. Parkinson's does not have you. Let me say that again. You have Parkinson's. Parkinson's does not have you. People call themselves people with Parkinson's. I want to change that. I want to change the nomenclature. That's what I want to do. And I'll tell you later on what I want you to call yourselves from now on. I was going to say person who just happens to have Parkinson's, by the way. But there's too many letters there. You can't do the acronym. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. But my wife wants to change what a caregiver is called. And I'm going to let her speak for a minute, if I can keep my wife to speaking for just a minute, on what her perspective of the title of caregiver is. And she's got our service dog with her.
Hi, everybody. This is Ollie. He's a little wound up here. Let me see if I can unwind him real quick. There we go. All right, buddy. He's pretty excited to see everybody. Thank you all for coming and taking this opportunity to learn more about Parkinson's. The first step is always knowledge. The more you learn, and there's things happening all the time, more research is being done, more advice on nutrition and exercise that can only help you become a better person and enjoy the quality of your life. As a caregiver this morning, I thought to myself, caregiver, I'm a caregiver. caregiver. Sounds like such a, I don't know, a sentence. I'm a caregiver. I thought, there's iPhones, iPads, I this, I that. I care. I care whether or not my husband is exercising. I care whether or not my husband is taking his medicines. I care whether or not he is emotionally okay and dealing with some of the stresses that he has to deal with on a daily basis. I may be a caregiver, but I also care about myself. And one of the things I can explain to you as caregivers, how many caregivers do we have in this audience right now? One of the things that you know that is the most important thing is you have to take care of yourself and make sure that you carve out time for yourself so that you can be the best caregiver there is. Because without you, he needs you. And he needs you to be on top of your game, healthy, happy, upbeat, great attitude. All those things have to come from within inside. You can't teach somebody how to have a great attitude. So I love all you caregivers, but remember, you're not only a caregiver, but you care. And that was my message for today.
Give her a round of applause. I'm a caregiver too. I care about her, and I have to spend that effort, and it's well worth it. I want to talk about the movie Overboard. Does anyone remember that movie Overboard? Raise your hand if you remember the movie Overboard. Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn. There was an actor in the movie Overboard called Roddy McDowall who took the role of the butler on the yacht. And he's a pretty famous actor. And I wondered why he took that role. And one of the things I do is I kind of wonder about stuff. And I think it was because of one line he got to deliver. One line that he took that role. And to tell you the story, for those of you that don't know it, basically Goldie Hawn was this rich woman on a yacht, been rich her whole life. She had a closet built. She didn't like it. She threw the tools of the guy who was Kurt Russell, who was building the closet, overboard. When she fell overboard later on, everyone's fallen overboard, she lost her memory, and he claimed her as his wife so that she would work off at home without knowing it the cost of the tools. Well, she got her memory back and went back to the yacht, and she was kind of in between worlds, and she was down in the galley doing shots with the crew, which was kind of interesting. Something she would never do. And she was alone then with Roddy McDowall, and she said to him, "Was I that bad?" in all the sincerity in the world. And he said to her, "Andrew, I lost my diamond earrings somewhere between 34th and 36th Street. Go find them." And she, with all the sincerity in the world and all the apologetic look she could make, she said, "I'm so sorry. What am I going to do?" And this is the line that he gave. He said, "Madam, we are all born with blinders on. You have had the unique opportunity of having yours removed for a short period of time. What you do with that information is entirely up to you." Think about that. You all were going through life with whatever life-changing events happened or didn't happen, and then you came to a point where Parkinson's entered your life. And your blinders were removed. And you saw the world from a different perspective. You can do something good with that. Coach Craig Thorpe, think about him getting Parkinson's after being a head coach. I'm sure he would tell you that he has a better perspective, can get inside the minds of students better, student athletes better, because he has had the perspective now of having Parkinson's. I was the top attorney in a NASDAQ-listed company at 41 years old when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I used to show up to meetings 5 minutes late just to show my power. I was an a-hole. I don't think I'm allowed to say it. We're on video, so I don't think I'm allowed to say. I learned humility through Parkinson's, and I'm going to I'm going to try to prove to you that there's things that you can learn, that you are a better person now with Parkinson's. I'm not Pollyannaing. I don't know if that's a word. I'm not blowing smoke. I know Parkinson's. I've had it 11 years. I know I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But there's always a silver lining to everything. You can find benefits from it. And I'm going to explain those as we go through this. I'm going to go through words. What do you think the first word is? Just shout it out. Journey. We're all on a journey. That was an easy one. There's some are very difficult. We're all on a journey. And I'm not going to just read the slides. But love and live the journey. We're all in a different place in the journey. We're all unique. But you have the power to affect your quality of life. We heard a speaker this morning talk about exercise. I'm going to talk about that. About getting involved in your treatment. Not just relying upon your doctor. Your doctor's a great resource, but you have to take responsibility for your medication, what you take. I had REM sleep disorder, or I wasn't getting good REM sleep. And my doctor never mentioned it to me. And my wife actually did some research and said, have you tried this drug? And we went to my doctor, took the drug, and all of a sudden I could sleep with REM sleep. How important is REM sleep? Yet it took her doing research to figure it out. Don't rely upon your doctor. You need to take responsibility for your own treatment, and then use your doctor as a resource and do what your doctor says, but add to the picture. So you have the power to affect your quality of life. Until there's a cure, that's the goal, your quality of life. Who are these people? Louisville, Kentucky, Muhammad Ali. I'm a bad, bad man. Pope John Paul II, Michael J. Fox, Janet Reno, Brian Grant, Davis Finney, and I don't know who that last guy is. But we're in a unique class of people. And it affects everyone, as you can see. It doesn't discriminate. Emotions. There's many emotions. And you have to, what my theory is that you have to get through, you're going to go through an emotional roller coaster. We're all on an emotional roller coaster. What you need to do is get through the roller coaster as quickly as possible to get to a place of centeredness, or where you embrace Parkinson's, or you accept Parkinson's. Daunting image. The reason I show it is finding out. We all remember the day that we found out we had Parkinson's. It was a bright spring day. I walked into a doctor's office. Before she even treated me, before she even did anything, she just said you have Parkinson's. I said, how can you diagnose me like that? You didn't hit my knee with a hammer. You didn't take blood. You didn't look up my nose. You didn't look in my ears. How do you know that? She said, well, you're not blinking. Your expressionless face. Your arm doesn't swing when you walk. You have micro handwriting, and your hand is tremoring. So I said to her, well, I want a confirmatory test. You've got to have a confirmatory test. She said, an autopsy. I said, no. I'm not going to go for the autopsy right now. But she did say, take the drugs, and if they work, unfortunately, you've got Parkinson's. So they worked, and I found out I had Parkinson's. First emotion that comes up, what do you think it is? This one's shock. And that's a zombie. Shock. You have a right to be in shock. Your world just changed. I was in 2 bus accidents, of all things in the world. Once when I was about 17 years old, the bus tipped over that I was in. And when I was 22 years old, I was in a bus that went off the highway and the driver was killed. So if you see me getting on a bus, don't get on the bus. But in both of those occasions, I saw white light. It was like slow motion. Everything slowed down. Well, for the next day after I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I saw white light. I went through the motions. I don't remember much. I remember what happened the moment I was told, but I don't remember much. You're going to be in shock. Just understand that and accept it. And what I described was kind of a zombie-like situation. And I think you can relate to that. I see it in your eyes. You can relate to this. What do you think this is? Denial. Yep, denial. That's denial if you don't get it. You did nothing to cause this. You weren't on a motorcycle without a helmet. You didn't do drugs. You didn't overdose. You didn't do something stupid. You didn't bungee jump. As they say, I've never used this joke before, but I'm going to say it. What's the last thing a redneck says before he dies? Hey y'all, watch this. You didn't do something stupid. No wonder we get stuck in denial. Leave me alone. Isolation. Isolation. I didn't want to tell my friends. I didn't want to tell my coworkers. I didn't want to tell my parents. I'll tell you what, when I told my parents, it took more emotion out of me. It drained me of all energy to tell my parents because I had to take care of them. Because you never want I have children and I know what it's like to have children. You never want your children to have anything go wrong. So you have isolation, telling others, and awkwardness. There's always going to be awkwardness. Everyone know what this is? Anger. Why me? It's funny, I never felt anger. I don't know why. I never felt angry. I guess I believe in God, and I didn't feel like He's kind of a powerful force to be angry with. I felt there must be a reason for this. But, as they said in Pretty Woman, as Richard Gere said, I'm very angry with my father. I'm very angry with my father. That's $40,000 of therapy to be able to say that. You can say you're angry. If you're angry, say you're angry. But get the help you need to get over it. The big theme of this is get over it. Every one of these emotions, you need to get through them and get over it. If you get stuck in an emotion, anger poisons the soul. Anger poisons the soul. You've got to get beyond the anger. Do whatever it takes to let go of the anger. The why me? I've been a good person. I haven't broken the golden rule. Just like anger, you have to get over it. What do you think this is? Let me describe what I learned from one of the speakers earlier talked about depression. I'm a pretty optimistic person. I'll tell you a story about my childhood. My brother, when I was 10 years old and he was 8 years old, hit me in the head with a rock. And there was blood everywhere. I went and saw my mother and she was like, oh! They took me to the hospital, had to get 10 stitches. When he tells the story, it's 2 stitches. So we're on the way home from the hospital. My mother said, well, we've got to keep you up late, so you can't go to bed at your normal time, but your brother and sister have to go to bed at normal time. And we're going to get you ice cream, because we know you've been through this. And the story goes that I said, this is the happiest day of my life. I got hit in the head with a rock. That's kind of my optimism, and I've always been pretty optimistic. I've always been a pretty happy person. Well, I learned what depression was. I was driving in my car, and I went into the deepest hole I've ever felt in my life. The deepest hole. And I didn't care if I lived or died. I didn't care what was going to happen to me. And I freaked out. And I came out of it. And I said, wow, what was that? And I understood why people commit suicide. I got empathy for people who do that. Because I never experienced anything like it. It's chemical. It's from the lack of dopamine. I know that. When it happened again, I at least knew I was going to come out of it. I came out of it, and I went to the doctor and I said, I got to deal with this depression. I don't like to take pills, but I got to deal with this depression. Do what you got to do to deal with it. It's not your fault. So this is depression. And you, for goodness sake, you have a progressive, degenerative, irreversible neurologic disease that will likely affect your ability to walk, think, swallow, have relations, drive, go to the bathroom, and talk. You have the right to be depressed. But do what you need to do to get over it. Get through the emotional roller coaster. Is everyone empathizing or identifying with these emotions that you've gone through? Get over it. There's plenty of things you can do to get over it. Now, what do you think this is? Wake-up call. Sometimes you need to get a wake-up call. I love that kid. That's not me. Somewhere along the line, you have to get a wake-up call. Let me tell you about my wake-up call. I went about 2 years into my Parkinson's. I was at my parents' house, and I was having a casual conversation with my parents, and my mother said, now, John, you know everything happens for a reason. And being a lawyer, I listen to words. And I recognized the fact that she changed a word. She used to say everything happens for the best. Maybe said it hundreds of times when I was growing up. And she changed it to for a reason. And I said to her, Mom, why did you change your favorite expression? And she said, because you got Parkinson's. And I can't imagine that that's for the best. Wow. Talk about a wake-up call. I swore that day that I would make it for the best. That I would do whatever it took to make my Parkinson's for the best. And you don't have to become an inspirational speaker like I did. You don't have to do that. You can do little things. You can volunteer. You can start support groups. You can do whatever you need to do, whatever's in your talents to make it for the best. It's hard to see. There's a lot of naysayers out there, but you got to make it for the best. And I feel like I've spent the last 11 years trying to do that to the best of my ability. She came to see me speak in Cincinnati to a group like this. And afterward, and I'll do this again today, I made myself available to anyone that wanted to speak with me one-on-one. There was a line of about 45 to 50 people. My mother was there, and she had watched the talk, and she sat there and watched me, and I talked to each person as long as they wanted to speak. And I held their hands and just talked to them. And at the end of the line, I was totally spent, totally fatigued. We went to the car, and my mom, with tears in her eyes, said, now I know why you do what you do. Still don't think it's for the best. She's a tough nut to crack. But now I know what you do. I do this because of the energy that I feel from the group. I do this because I feel like I can hopefully inspire some people to feel better and not feel so much pain and get some hope. So what's the next thing? It's not a treasure map, it's a plan. You got to have a plan. And a lot of what you've heard so far enters into that plan. How much time do I have? Funny. Your new job is to sustain the highest quality of your life for the remainder of your life. Give me a hand if you agree with that. That's your new job. That's your job now. And I didn't get that for 5 or 6 years. I still went on like oblivious to everything else. But that is your new job. It's that simple, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. This is me with Bernadette about a week after we met. Notice the difference in me. I'm healthier. My face is not so fat and red. I still look pretty good. She looks great. But I've lost 35 pounds unintentionally through exercise and fitness. Remember they talked about, the first speaker talked about mandatory exercise. Was it mandatory exercise or enforced exercise? We got the enforcer, the one with the little dog. She's the enforcer. And she started me out slow. And this is something that I started before I met her. I went to see Davis Finney in Tulsa do the Victory Summit, which is pretty cool. He goes around the country doing that. And I heard one speaker say one thing that stuck in my mind. And the speaker said, you've got to get out of your comfort zone when you exercise. I went right back to Louisville and I got a personal trainer, and I started with a personal trainer. I call him a professional counter because that's all he did. He didn't push me, just was a professional counter. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I meet Bernadette. She puts me on a spin bike with interval training. We do, and not everyone can do this. You need to do what you can do. Remember that. You've heard that spoken before. Do what you can do, but do a little bit beyond what your comfort zone is. So I went to elliptical machine, spin bike, did a little bit of Shaun T insanity. No, that's crazy. As much as I could do. Fitness boxing, kettlebell, hot yoga. Now I'm in a pretty good regime. I actually found an ab the other day. Just one, but I found an ab. Look at that. Tremendous difference. My plan, and I won't read this to you, but it involves one thing that we haven't talked about yet, and that's nutrition. We all know that eating animal protein blocks in the intestines the absorption of levodopa-carbidopa. So we have to time when we eat animal protein. Well, Bernadette and I decided, why are we timing all this? We'll just cut it out. So that's what we've done. I went cold turkey, excuse the expression, cold turkey. And I went ahead and stopped eating it. And there's lots more to it than that. Stay mentally active, live in the moment. Eat, pray, love. They had the expression, il dolce far niente. Screwed that up, go ahead. Whatever. It means the sweetness of doing nothing. I take time out of every day and sit out on my patio, my screened-in porch, and just lie there and think. And it's the most restful thing I do all day. Live the 12 Decide Success Action Steps. I wrote a book. It's one thing I've always wanted to do. It's called Decide Success. And it's perfectly in line with Parkinson's. Parkinson's prompted me to do it. I was successful as a student. I was successful as an attorney. Now I'm being successful as a person with Parkinson's. Soon to be changed to, I'll let you know in a second. It's a step-by-step way. It gives you exercises. I'm not here to sell the book. I have some copies with me. You can come buy them or not. It doesn't matter. But it's a great way to plan out the 12 action steps, from envisioning to having faith. Silver lining. Benefits. Focus on the benefits of having Parkinson's. Yes, I said it. The benefits of having Parkinson's. Motivation. I'm doing something different with my life. Use your newfound abilities. You know how as a kid you have stare contests? Well, we could kick some butt. I mean, if they had Olympics of stare contests, we'd have a tremendous advantage over everyone else. Texas Hold'em. I used to be a terrible Texas Hold'em player. They took me for all the money I had. Now, when I get that fourth queen, no one knows it. I don't take my meds for 2 days before the tournament. My facial expression doesn't change. Express appreciation to your caregivers. Let me say something about that. My parents live in Hilton Head. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I talk to them once, twice a week. At the end of the phone call, what do you say? I love you. What does Parkinson's get your loved ones to do? It becomes more than just words. They get to show you how much they love you by their actions. Bernadette shows me every day how much she loves me by helping me do button a sleeve, or making me something to eat, or whatever she does, giving me a hug, whatever. So right now, thank your caregiver, your eye care person. Thank them right now. Hug, kiss, I don't care. Nothing more than that though. This is G-rated. But you get to show your love for them. Help others, develop lasting friendships. Let me talk about that. I feel like I'm in a community, a village, a tribe, a group now. I come here and I see Chuck from New Orleans. I just talk in New Orleans around Sugar Bowl time. I just happened to be in New Orleans in Sugar Bowl, I don't know why. Louisville beat Florida, beat the tar out of them. I know you guys hate Florida, so that's good. Michelle, Carol, these have become friends of mine. I wouldn't have these friends had I not gotten Parkinson's. And it's a humbling experience, becoming more loving, kind, and compassionate. How many here think that the person that has Parkinson's, that they're caregiver for, has becoming more loving, kind, and compassionate? We have our tough moments. It's a tough disease. Envision, see yourself there. When I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I talked the talk, walked the talk, what my book talks about, envision. And envision is where you actually see yourself in that situation. And I looked at myself and I said, 10 years from now, I want to be the healthiest person I can be with Parkinson's. I want to be the slowest progressing Parkinson's person that ever lived. It's my envision. I can have whatever envision I want. You can have whatever envision you want. And these are the things that I've done to make that happen. When I was in law school, I didn't have the ability or the financial ability to have a car during high school, undergraduate, or law school. We just didn't have the finances for that. So I would dream about my dream car when I was in law school, and I ended up buying it a year after I graduated from law school. To me, there's this car and every other car. What car do you think it is? I'm giving you a hint up there. Corvette. So it's red in color. What do you think? Do you think it's a convertible or a coupe? Convertible. Think it's a 6-speed or automatic? 6-speed. And this is it. 23 years I had this car. 23 years. Positive attitude. Let me tell you why I can prove to you that positive attitude makes a difference. I can prove it to you. Placebo effect. You've all heard of the placebo effect. They have to give sugar pills to a control group because everyone will have a benefit for the first 3 months, thinking that they're taking the new medicine. What else could that be other than attitude? So having a positive attitude makes a difference in your ability to have the highest quality of life possible. And that's proof certain of it. And nothing is impossible. I put up there a couple of things that thought to be impossible. Let me talk about my daughter. My daughter is 16 years old. She was born with life-threatening birth defects, was in neonatal ICU for 60 days, had about a 40% chance of living. She now has mild cerebral palsy. She came to me one day in 5th grade and said, "Dad, I want to be a cheerleader. I'm going to be a cheerleader." I said, one side of me said, being a parent, said, kids can be cruel in 5th grade and she's going to be ridiculed and I don't want her to go through that, but I don't want her to feel like she's limited either. So she said, "I'm going to go out for the cheerleading squad." And she did. She couldn't do all the cheers, but she tried real hard. That's her right here. One on the end. She tried real hard and couldn't do it, but she became kind of a mascot for the team and everyone loved her. The next year she comes to me and says, "Dad, I'm not going to be a cheerleader anymore." And I thought to myself, oh man, they got to her. I feel so bad that she's not going to do this. I said, did someone say something, or did they ridicule you or criticize you? She said, no, Dad, I'm going out for the basketball team, and I can't be a cheerleader and a basketball player at the same time. Now that's positive attitude. So she would get in the game with 30 seconds to go. She'd go to a defensive spot she's supposed to stand in, put her hands up, run down as best she can to the offensive side, stand there, wait for the ball. She loved every second of it. That's a positive attitude. Ted Williams had a positive attitude. I'm a big Boston Red Sox fan. Ted Williams said, and this is in Louisville, Kentucky, where the Louisville Slugger bats are made. He said, all I want is to walk down the street and have people point to me and say, that's the best hitter that ever lived. And that's a positive attitude. Let me tell you one more story about Ted Williams. When he was 75, he was interviewed. If you don't know who he is, he was the last player to bat 400 in the major leagues. He was interviewed at 75 and said, how do you think you do against today's pitchers? And he said, well, I'd hit about 200, which is terrible. And the commentator said, do you think the pitchers are that much better today than during your time? He said, no, for Christ's sake, I'm 75 years old. How do you think I'd do against these pitchers? Faith. Have faith in yourself, have faith in others, have faith in the higher power, and find your purpose. Find your purpose. Everything happens for the best. Find your purpose. Everyone has a purpose. Get to the point of acceptance. Not accepting your fate, but acceptance. It's part of the natural process of healing. Finally, if you can, embrace Parkinson's. I feel like I've embraced Parkinson's. It took me 11 years, but I've embraced Parkinson's. I'm not going to even say these words. The best shape of my life. I'm as healthy as I've ever been. I'm 52 years old now. We talked about caregivers. A lot of the same emotions, let's not discount this. A lot of the same emotional roller coaster that happens with Parkinson's people happens to caregivers as well. Don't discount this. You have the power. You have the power. I didn't plan to dress like a Smurf that day. And that's at the boxing gym. Jim Valvano. I love Jim Valvano. I will read this. To me, there are three things we should all do every day of our lives. We should laugh every day. We should spend some time in thought. You should have your emotions move to tears, could be happiness or joy. But think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a heck of a week. Do that 7 days a week, you're going to do something special. You are not Parkinson's. You are not Parkinson's. You're a person who has Parkinson's. Parkinson's does not have you. And then, I don't know if you've ever heard of Gary Allan, but he writes a song where he says, life ain't always beautiful. Sometimes it's just plain hard. Life can knock you down, it can break your heart. But the struggles make you stronger, and the changes make you wise, and happiness has its own way of taking its sweet time. No, life ain't always beautiful, but I know I'll be fine. Hey, life ain't always beautiful, but it's a beautiful ride. What a beautiful ride. I had the pleasure of doing a compilation book where I wrote a chapter in Courageous Stories of Inspiration as well as Roadmap to Success. And this is my Decide Success book. Just to show one more picture of my kids. Now let me tell you what I think we need to turn to. Instead of person with Parkinson's, I am Parkinson's proud. Or I've been Parkinson's proud since 2002. That's what I say to people when they ask me what I have. Because people will ask. People care. I am Parkinson's proud. Join me in being Parkinson's proud. Because I'm proud of the fact that I have Parkinson's. What would I be doing right now if I didn't get Parkinson's? Would I be inspired by you? Would I be hopefully inspiring you? Would I be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana? Would I have had a wonderful dinner with the leadership of this group last night? Would I be at a desk somewhere working Saturdays like I always did as a lawyer, reading contracts? Michael J. Fox, great actor. What would he be doing if he didn't get Parkinson's? Would he have raised hundreds of millions of dollars for Parkinson's research? Would the leadership of this group, the support groups, would they have done what they've done? No. There's always a silver lining. You can always find things to be for the best. So be Parkinson's proud, because I sure am. Thank you.